All right, so at this point, I want to talk about one of the big central focus points in the Phoenix Rising documentary, and that is the Heart-Shaped Glasses music video and the controversy around it. So, to begin with, my usual disclaimers. I am a huge Marilyn Manson fan. I am very much on Team Manson in all of this. And however, I initially supported Evan Rachel Wood because I found her claims to be credible. That opinion changed over time. My opinion then, as it is now, is that no matter what position proves to be correct, we should be on the side of sympathy for Evan Rachel Wood, because she has either been abused and manipulated by Marilyn Manson or abused and manipulated by Ilma Gore, or both. So that is my consistent position, and I say that because we need to make an effort to remain sane, compassionate, and even-handed in trying times. So, anyway, I want to talk about the Heart-Shaped Glasses music video. Now, this is a very significant topic within the documentary, namely because Evan Rachel Wood makes the very profound claim that she was raped on set during the filming of the Heart-Shaped Glasses music video. So, for those unaware, Heart-Shaped Glasses was the lead-off single for Marilyn Manson's album Eat Me, Drink Me. It was inspired by his relationship with Evan Rachel Wood, and both the song and the music video feature themes derived from themes and symbols derived from Nabokov's Lolita, which was intentionally designed to play up the age difference between Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood. At the time, she was 19, he was 37. So the claim goes, the video depicts a stylized series of events portraying a fictional rendition of or a fictional summary, if you will, of the events in the Marilyn Manson-Evan Rachel Wood relationship. Manson is depicted performing the song at a club, while Evan Rachel Wood looks on from the audience. For all you Mitzi fans, there's her cameo. Anyway, yeah, no, you just get a cameo this time. There, yeah, go chase that. Anyway, scene depicted playing the song in a club. Evan Rachel Wood looks on. They eventually go into a relationship, one of the scenes of which is an ostensibly softcore depiction of them having sex. Pardon me. Evan Rachel Wood claims that she was drugged throughout the scene and throughout the day, and eventually raped on set, and is now requesting that YouTube remove the video on the premise that the video depicts her being raped or contains footage of her being raped. Now, that claim immediately becomes questionable when confronted with the fact that the Phoenix Rising documentary has an extended amount of the footage of her and Manson having softcore sex in the documentary itself. But that would mean that the producers of the documentary are also producing footage of Evan Rachel Wood being raped. But anyway, there are a lot of problems with these claims. The first and most obvious claim is something that everybody has pointed out. In the documentary, obviously, first of all, you can't reasonably make the claim that you were raped in front of a room full of witnesses and then fail to produce any witnesses. So, in the Phoenix Rising documentary, there is a scene where Evan Rachel Wood is shown shedding tears of joy because she is being informed that members of the film crew for Heart-Shaped Glasses are going to come forward and corroborate her story. No such people are then produced within the documentary, and no such people have come forward in reality either. In other words, it's yet another vacuous claim made in the documentary that ultimately fails to play out in the real world. That's something that many people have pointed out, but what I wanted to point out was the involvement of Evan Rachel Wood's mother. And I want to look at the mother's central claim. She says when she's interviewed in the document, or when she's interviewed in Phoenix Rising, and it gets to the point about the heart-shaped glasses video, she says, "Well, none of us wanted her to be in it. I mean, she was 19." And that's the mother's big. I was waiting for something more to justify why the mother didn't want her to do it, but no, that was the big emphasis. She was 19, as if implying that she was entirely too young to be doing that. The problem is that at this point, we've already seen about 45 minutes worth of footage of preamble about Evan Rachel Wood's life and her life leading up to that. And to be honest with you, the mother never sat right with me throughout the entire documentary. Every time the mother was on camera, it felt wrong. And I mean, it felt wrong to the very core of my being. I did not trust her at all. And I'll explain why. So, as I reiterate, first I'll reiterate a couple of points that I made in my general overview of the Phoenix Rising documentary. The first one being that there are things that are obviously glossed over with regards to Evan Rachel Wood's relationship to her parents, especially her mother. Firstly, there is a scene, it talks about a scene early on, or a point early on in Evan Rachel Wood's life, where she and her mother fled from their father. The word fled is used specifically. When you flee from your home, that implies that you are in immediate danger, so much so that you have to seek immediate shelter rather than just leaving and moving out. That already raised alarm bells, but in the very next breath, they talked about giving the son, Evan's brother, the option to choose between living with the father and living with Evan and their mother. It's a very strange statement. If the father is so abusive that you have to flee the home, why are you giving one child the option to stay and not the other? That's a very big question. And I know that detractors might say that it's just anomaly hunting, but it starts to get worse and worse from there. See, the thing is, as I was watching the documentary, the next thing that happens is Evan Rachel Wood's mother did not think that her idea of fleeing from the home, getting her out of that abusive situation, was not to get her to get her to a new school, a new school in a safe location and get her back into having some semblance of a normal life. No, she took her daughter out to Hollywood and started marketing her as a child actress. And the thing is, none of this is made none of that part of it, of the mother's involvement in her career, is made clear to us until later. First, we start hearing about how Evan started acting as a child and how she appeared in a movie called 13. It's a movie for which she was critically acclaimed and became very much an indie darling. And so she appeared, she says that the first thing that happened was when she was in 13, her first major role, when she was 13 herself, there was a scene where she was required to have an intimate kissing moment with a man in his middle 20s, an actor in his middle 20s. She said that she herself was not comfortable with the scene, she did not want to do the scene, and that she switched off and kind of switched off her personal feelings, her personal judgment, and just powered through it. And that this became the way she got through so many uncomfortable scenes that she did not want to do in the course of her acting career. She then talks about how she got so good at doing this that she began getting typecast as a sort of Lolita character, as a girl that was, as a young actress that was capable of playing young women who were sexually worldly beyond what their age range would normally allow for. And that this became her calling card. Her stock in trade was being able to play these characters, that she was uncomfortable playing them, she did not like playing them, but she kept switching off her better judgment and switching everything off and just powering through things that she actually found traumatic. When I was being told this, I wrote in my notes, where was the mother? And that's a very important question, because in the entertainment industry, when you are working with children, when you are working with child actors, keeping mom and dad happy is job number one. That's why, for example, if you watch VH1 Behind the Music and for the 80s singer Tiffany, you can tell that she was being abused and mistreated giveaways that she was being abused and mistreated by her manager was that that the parents talk about how they were unable. She would be out on tour and they would be unable to get a hold of the manager to even find out what city she was in or speak to their daughter and find out how she was doing and that kind of thing. To which the manager immediately starts scoffing and saying, "Oh, well, I didn't have time for that. I couldn't deal. I had all these other things I had to deal with. I didn't have time to talk to them." Wrong. When you're dealing with child entertainers, keeping mom and dad happy is job number one. So this is a very big and very important question. So, as it stands, what does that mean? Well, as the documentary progresses, we learn something very unsettling. Her mother was her manager throughout all of that. Her mother was the one getting her all of those parts. And so then at one point, Marilyn Manson is portrayed as being the bad guy because he told Evan Rachel Wood that she ought to go examine her contract, her management contract with her mother, and find out what's actually in it. In that interview, Evan makes a very important admission where she says that she admits that she was not happy with the management contract she has with her mother. Then that is cited as evidence that Marilyn Manson was trying to get her away from her mother, and not evidence that he as an industry veteran was trying to get her to take notice of something that happens to a lot of child stars, namely that they get into contracts where their parents essentially turn them into dancing bears. In my original commentary, I mentioned Macaulay Culkin and Britney Spears. There are countless other examples. But anyway, over and over again, the mother's behavior did not sit right with me. Everything about the mother's behavior had telltale signs of parent of child actor trying to turn their kid into dancing bear. And to learn that the mother was responsible for getting her daughter all of those parts that she was not comfortable performing in, that it was her mother who was putting her up to that. And yes, in these cases, it is ultimately the parents who bear the responsibility at this point, acting as the people who are making legal decisions in lieu of their child's, ostensibly to represent their child's best interest. They bear the responsibility for this. Her mother was making her, by the admission of the documentary, the mother was making her take roles making her take roles in film and television, portraying so-called Lolita type characters or sociosexually developed, overdeveloped teenage girls or underage girls, so much so that she got typecast as being able to perform those types of characters. This is all while she was under 18, while she was well under the age of consent. She was performing these jailbait characters, and her mother was the one getting her the parts. And then we arrive at Heart-Shaped Glasses when Evan Rachel Wood is 19. Yes, she's playing a highly sexualized, portraying a highly sexualized character, but she is a legal adult. And the mother who was getting her daughter all of these parts as Lolita characters throughout her teenage years, her mother is the one who gets on camera and says, "We didn't want her to take that part. She was 19." As suddenly acting as if Evan Rachel Wood's age is suddenly a factor. And that was what sent up alarm bells with me. This movie, over and over again, this movie shows Evan Rachel Wood being victimized by people other than Marilyn Manson, and then Marilyn Manson being portrayed as a sort of predator that took advantage of all of these things. Well, if this is true, her mother was the number one person who was putting her in these positions. If the stated premise of the documentary is to be believed, namely that Evan Rachel Wood performed so many Lolita jailbait characters growing up that she lost her ability to distinguish. She learned to go on autopilot to get through all of these horrible roles she never wanted to do, and that she was ultimately brainwashed by the Hollywood system as a result, and that left her vulnerable to Marilyn Manson. If all of that is to be believed, the person who was responsible for that happening was the mother. The mother took her out of the home, flew her out to Los Angeles, rebranded her life, or set up a new life for her as a child actress, started having her perform in repeatedly having her perform in sexually provocative roles at an age below the age of consent, playing characters that were performing sexually provocative acts under the age of consent. It was her mother who introduced her to this lifestyle. It was her mother who kept her in this lifestyle, and somehow we are all supposed to blame everybody but the mother. There are people who have speculated that she was enduring some sort of abuse from her father that caused them to flee the home. That is possible. Honestly, I believe that less than the more likely premise that the mother had stars in her eyes and wanted to fly Evan Rachel Wood out to LA and start her new life as a child actress, especially in light of the fact that the father was some horrifying, menacing figure, but they didn't see any need to get the son out of that situation. So anyway, that is a very, very big red flag. The very person that is responsible for typecasting Evan Rachel Wood as a Lolita character in her career suddenly wants to act, when she's underage, suddenly wants to act like Evan Rachel Wood was doing something unwise when she portrayed a similar, albeit of age, sexually experienced character in a music video after she was above the age of consent and after she was outside the purview of her mother's contractual hold on her. Reflecting on the documentary, the family sent up more red flags than Marilyn Manson did. There are very specific claims of physical abuse that she says she endured that are from Marilyn Manson that are worthy of consideration. But in terms of the overall long-term effects, the family over and over again appear to be the ones who have abused and mistreated and essentially, if we want to use the word brainwashed as the film so strongly implies, they're the ones that brainwashed Evan Rachel Wood into this lifestyle. And it's very bizarre to me how, don't get me wrong, if she was preyed upon by she doesn't deserve, let me phrase that, she does not deserve to be preyed upon by anybody, nobody does, but it's akin to, it's like, it's almost like, no, I don't want to draw an analogy because I'll get accused of victim blaming, but they bear a responsibility for putting her in the line of danger in that regard, and that is never addressed in the documentary. But even more so than that, and even more important than that, as I said before, you cannot make the claim that you were raped on a film set in front of a room full of witnesses and then fail to produce a single witness. Not a single witness is produced in the documentary, and not a single witness has been produced in real life, to my knowledge. That said, any witnesses for or against Evan Rachel Wood's accusations will now be subject to subpoena and deposition in her upcoming court battle against Marilyn Manson. So what she's basically done is hand Marilyn Manson a very easy advantage in all of this, because now they have justification to subpoena everybody that was on set that day when the scene was filmed and get their stories. So, and Mitzi made another appearance. Anyway, so those are my thoughts on the heart-shaped glasses controversy, and feel free to comment in the comments section. I'm going to go deal with my cat.